You better go see your wife, Junior. If they get too much of a head start. My first grandson's gonna be theirs.
While you're out there playing football and winning all those honors, and I was here, busting my butt under our father. And let me tell you, he's not an easy man to work for.
JR was so quiet, so shy. Doc just took over raising JR. Make him a man's man, he said.
Maybe the Ewing man I married isn't all the man that he claims to be.
I want a baby just as much as you do, but I want it to be our child, not somebody else's.
I'm gonna have a baby.
Well, I just think that you and JR have been married for 7 years and not had a child. I'm with you for 6 weeks, and you're pregnant.
Bet you're real sorry that you don't have a little brat of your own like me. Without a child, you'll never have South Fork.
You're not gonna leave JR and South Fork and all that money for me.
Have you ever been poor? Have you ever scrubbed up people's dirt to make a living?
I stayed with your father, though he had far less to offer than JR.
Well, to show you how fair I am, why don't you call him up on the phone? Or better yet, why don't you arrange to meet him someplace? See how far he's willing to go for you.
Look, I'm sorry.
You're sorry.
How do I live without a man in my bed?
We open with a pair of Ewing women struggling with substance abuse problems. Sue Ellen is grabbing a final sip of her driving liquor before going in for her pregnancy checkup. Her doctor minces 0 of the words and tells Sue Ellen to knock it off.
You are putting your baby's welfare in great jeopardy, not to mention what you're doing to yourself.
Sue Ellen threatens to find a new doctor, one who will look the other way as she fetal alcohol syndromes the kid into oblivion. Lucy, meanwhile, is pulling off a brilliant scheme where she purchases jewelry on the Ewing credit, takes the jewelry to a pawn shop for cash, and uses the cash to buy drugs. You know, if she turned around and sold the drugs for a profit, we'd be one step away from Ewing Pharmaceuticals. I should note that Lucy's dealer is a young Peter Horton, looking like the lost Von Erich brother. He gives her a sip of his not Pepsi and invites her to a drug party. At the office, Bobby notes that Cliff is now one of the most powerful men in Texas thanks to the Office of Land Management. Pamela, who ran into Lucy during her reverse fencing operation, tells Bobby she's worried about her. She thinks Lucy isn't handling the Kip Mainwaring breakup very well. The couple runs into Sue Ellen, who says that she'll just wait for JR to arrive at the office, and then she immediately raids the liquor cabinet. JR isn't showing up anytime soon because he's busy making a deal with the state senator to disband the OLM. Odd that he didn't just go with the state senator that they bought and paid for earlier in the season. Kudos to director Leonard Katzman for getting all cinematic on our asses with a slow zoom into Chekhov's whiskey and then coming back to it half empty to show how long Sue Ellen has been drinking. Sue Ellen drunk dials Cliff, who is busy with his latest conquest. He brushes her off, which is actually some healthy boundary setting for Clifford, even if hearing that he's with another woman is devastating to Sue Ellen. Speaking of hearing heartbreaking things, Ray Krebbs has to turn off the radio when they play the new hit from Garnet McGee. Lucy storms in and throws herself at him. She's more incoherent than usual, so Ray puts on a pot of coffee. Since no sex party is forthcoming, Lucy decides to have a pity party. Sue Ellen has the good sense to pull off to the side of the road to pass out, which leads to Bobby and Pam finding her behind the wheel and carting her the rest of the way to South Fork. Bobby and Pam discuss her drinking in a surprising bit of awareness of what's going on.
I think I'll go have a talk with my folks.
I think it's about time.
In an even more surprising moment, Jock lays the blame for Sue Ellen's drinking squarely at JR's feet. This leads to an intervention with everyone trying to get JR to recognize his role in Sue Ellen's alcoholism. In one of the great early moments of the series, Miss Ellie dismisses Jock and Bobby in favor of confronting JR alone. Miss Ellie proceeds to tear him the following asshole.
You were a small child, JR, when I stopped interfering in your life. But just because I didn't say anything doesn't mean I haven't watched and seen. You're power hungry. You're like your daddy in that. But he has redeeming qualities. I don't know that you have any redeeming qualities, JR. Is there anyone you love? I don't know why she didn't leave you years ago.
That is devastating. JR tries to dismiss her barbs, but Miss Ellie lays his masculinity bare and challenges him to do something to save his marriage.
Sue Ellen's in trouble, JR. And your child's life is in danger. You must do something about it.
It's too late.
Lucy has sobered up and crashed, but when Ray leaves, she sneaks away. Bobby and Ray speculate that she's at her friend's house, so they storm the gates and find a drugged-out sex party, just like the ones we used to have in the 70s. Lucy is pretty out of it and about to fall victim to a creepy rapist before Bobby and Ray drag her out. Bobby grounds her but covers her pill-popping for Miss Ellie. JR does try to make things right in his own way, by threatening Sue Ellen into drying out. Fortunately, Sue Ellen has hidden liquor all over the house, so his efforts to cut her off are unsuccessful. Pam is reluctant to leave Lucy and Sue Ellen alone, but Bobby says Ray is there to babysit. I mean, Bobby has done some dumb things before, but leaving Ray Krebbs in charge of anything has to rank right up there. Lucy sneaks some more pills, and she's not much help when she witnesses a drunken Sue Ellen fall down the stairs.
You know what? I'm about to say it. I don't care that you broke your elbow.
Ray has to call Bobby and inform him that Sue Ellen fell, and Lucy is back on the pills. Oddly, Bobby has the restraint not to yell, "I've been gone 5 minutes, Ray." JR shows up at the hospital, where Sue Ellen's doctor tells him to consider getting her some help if she won't help herself. The elder Ewings arrive, and Jock tells him to grow up and be a man his son would be proud of. And JR is just getting it from all angles this episode. Bobby gives an insightful after-school special speech to Lucy about the need to feel pain in life and how masking it with drugs won't help you heal in the long run.
Honey, if you don't feel pain, you don't really feel anything. And that's not living.
Sue Ellen wakes up, and everyone agrees to pretend that Sue Ellen just tripped over her high heels. Everyone, that is, except JR, who announces that he's having Sue Ellen committed to a sanitarium for her own good. We end on Sue Ellen getting dragged away by whitecoats and promising revenge on JR. Well, that's dramatic. As usual, I'll leave most of the analysis for the second half of the two-parter, but I did want to bring up the unmaking of John Ross Ewing Jr. that happens over the last half of the second season, and culminates here with not one but two dressing downs from the elder Ewings. JR started the season on a high, accidentally eliminating a potential firstborn for Bobby and Pam, humiliating Cliff Barnes and derailing his career, and carrying on with a bevy of beautiful women. But the season sees him get cuckolded by Cliff and Ray Krebbs, lose his business leverage to Cliff, and alienate his own family. It's like they're taking this insecure man who lusts for power in an effort to impress his daddy and strips him bare for all the world to see how toxic he is. And of course, when that happens, Sue Ellen always feels the brunt of it. In this case, JR blames her for the drinking and everything that comes along with it, rather than looking at how his own behavior contributed to her condition. JR Ewing cannot fail. JR Ewing can only be failed.
Have you ever had a dream that you want him to do you so much you could do anything?